Why, hello everybody. It is GleeCon, and I am here once again, bringing you another episode of Lore of Warcraft. Thank you for tuning in on the last one. We continued our completionist classic walkthrough through Era Vanilla with our Horde character working their way through Felwood. We've got most of the quests done there. We still have some grind left to do. Today we're going to continue a journey we started a couple episodes ago, which is the reading of a novel called Warcraft Durotan. We're going to read chapter 1 today. This is a prequel novel to the novelization of the cinematic masterpiece, Warcraft, the movie. So this is not technically canon. This is the film's alternate universe, but I think it's still going to provide us some good content. It's written by Christy Golden, and the prologue last time was pretty good, so stay a while and listen to chapter 1. The ululating cries of orcs on the hunt rent the icy air. Durotan had tasted battle with other clans, but few challenged the Frostwolves here in their northern homeland. Bloodlust and thirst for honor were most often quenched as they were now, with howls and victory songs, as mounted orcs ran down strong prey that fled before them. The earth trembled beneath the thundering feet of a herd of cleft hooves, shaggy and lean in the last moments of a winter that had seemed as if it would never slacken its grip on the land. The Frostwolves harried them gleefully, their delight at finding meat infusing them with fresh energy after 2 days of tracking the herd. Garad, his long black hair threaded with silver but his body still straight and strong, led the group. Beside him on his right, her body more slender than her mate's, but her movements as swift and her blows as lethal, rode Durotan's mother, Gaia. Garad did not always command, often stepping back to allow Durotan to take the role, but the younger orc never felt as alive as he did when hunting at his father's left side. Finally riding on Durotan's left was Orgrim Doomhammer, Durotan's best friend. The two had gravitated toward one another ever since they could walk, indulging in all manner of competitions and challenges that always ended not with anger, but with laughter. Orgrim's mother claimed her little warrior had been so eager to fight that he struck the midwife's hand with his head as he entered the world, and the spirits left him with a bruise in the form of a reddish splotch on his otherwise brown skull. Orgrim was fond of this story and therefore always shaved his pate, even in winter, which most Frostwolves thought foolish. The four of them had often ridden in this formation. Their moves were as familiar to one another as their own heartbeats. Durotan glanced over at Garad as they pursued the cleft hooves. His father grinned and nodded. The clan had been hungry for some time. Tonight they would feast. Gaia, her long legs gripping the sides of her wolf Singer, knocked her bow and waited for her mate's signal. Garad lifted his spear Thunderstrike, carved with runes and adorned with leather wraps and notches of 2 different styles. A horizontal sash represented a beast's life, a vertical one an orc. Thunderstrike was cluttered with both vertical and horizontal markings, but the vertical ones were not few. Everyone, Durotan knew, had been made when a foe fought well and died cleanly. Such was the way of the Frostwolves. The orc chieftain pointed Thunderstrike at one cleft hoof in particular. Words would not carry well over the steady pounding, so Garad looked around as the other Frostwolves raised their own weapons, indicating they had seen the designated target. The herd's cluster formation as they stampeded meant life for those in the center, provided they did not stumble. The targeted cow's steady gait veered slightly away from the tight grouping. Her belly did not swell with a calf. No Frostwolf would slay a pregnant cleft hoof, not when their numbers dwindled with each of the increasingly bitter winters. Nor would the hunters slaughter more than they could carry back to Frostfire Ridge, or feed to their wolf companions as thanks for their aid in the hunt. "Let the wild wolves work for their own suppers," Garad had said once as he scratched ice behind the ears. "We Frostwolves will take care of our own." Such had not always been the case. Garad had told Durotan that in his youth the clan sacrificed at least one, and often several animals as thanks to the spirits. The creatures lay where they had fallen, food for wild beasts and carrion crows. Such wastefulness had not occurred often in Durotan's time. Food was too precious to squander. Garad leaned forward, Knowing this is a sign to charge, Ice lowered his head and sprang. "Hurry up!" The good-natured jibe came from Orgrin, whose own wolf, Biter, raced past Durotan like an arrow fired from a bow. Durotan called his friend a scathing name, and Sharptooth, anxious to feed, also sprang forward. The wave of wolves and riders descended upon the hapless cow. Had she been but a few strides closer to the herd, she might have been protected by their sheer number, but although she bellowed plaintively, the herd merely increased its speed. The lead bull had abandoned her, too intent on driving the rest far enough out of range of the terrifying orcs, so that no more of his herd would fall. The Clefthooves were not stupid, and the cow realized soon enough that this was a fight she would have to win or lose on her own. She wheeled with a speed belying her enormous size, and turned to face her would-be killers. Clefthooves were prey animals, but that did not mean they did not have personalities, nor did it mean they were not dangerous. The cow that stood to face him, her cleft hooves churning up the snow as she snorted, was a fighter, as they were, and she clearly intended to take more than a few orcs and wolves down with her. Durotan grinned. This one was worthy prey. There was no honor, only the sense of a need fulfilled, in hunting beasts that did not stand and fight. He was glad of the Clefthoof's courageous choice. The rest of the party saw her defiance too, and their cries increased in delight. The cow snorted, lowered her head, crowned with massive sharp horns, and charged directly at Garad. The orc chieftain and his wolf moved as one, springing out of danger long enough for Garad to hurl Thunderstrike. The spear caught the great beast in her side. Ice gathered himself to attack. As he and other white wolves leaped for the Clefthoof's throat, Garad, Durotan, Orgrim, Gia, and the rest of the hunting party hurled spears, arrows, and shouts of challenge at the Clefthoof. The fight was a frenzy of motion, a cacophony of snarls, grunts, and war cries. Wolves darted in and out, their teeth ripping and tearing, while their riders struggled to get close enough to land blows of their own. Memories of his first hunt flashed in Durotan's mind, as they always did. He shoved his way to the forefront of the fight. Ever since that long-ago trek following the train of bloody snow, Durotan had been driven to be the one who struck the killing blow, to be the one to end the torment. It never mattered if in the thick of the fight others witnessed him strike and credited him the kill. It only mattered that he dealt the blow. He wove his way around the white blurs of the wolves and the fur-clad bodies of his clanspeople until the smell of blood and rank animal hide almost made his head swim. Abruptly he found an opening. Durotan dropped into himself, gripping his spear tightly and letting his focus narrow to the single purpose. All that existed for him now was the spot just behind the cow's left foreleg. The Clefthooves were large, so were their hearts. His spear found its mark, and the great beast shuddered. Bright blood stained its hide. Durotan had struck clean and true, and though she struggled for a few more moments, at last she collapsed. A huge cry went up, and Durotan's ears rang. He smiled, breathing heavily. Tonight the clan would eat. They always brought more hunters than were needed to take a beast down. The joy of the hunt was in the tracking, the fighting, and the slaying, but many hands were also needed to butcher the animal and prepare it for the trek back to the village. From Garad himself to the youngest member of the party, everyone joined in. At one point, Durotan straightened, stretching arms bloody to the elbow from hacking at the carcass. Motion caught his eye, and he frowned, peering into the distance. "Father," he called. "Rider!" Everyone stopped what they were doing at that word. Worried glances were exchanged, but all knew better than to speak. Riders never came after a hunting party, which could mean frightening the prey, unless the party had been gone for too long and there was concern for their safety. The only time a single rider would be sent out would be if Garad were suddenly needed back at the village, and that meant bad news. Garad looked at Gia in silence, then stood and waited for the rider to approach. Kurgnal, an older, grizzled orc whose hair was as white as the snow, slipped off his wolf and saluted his chieftain, thumping one huge hand to his broad chest. He wasted no words. "Great chieftain, an orc has come to speak to you under the banner of parley." Garad's brow knitted. "Parley." The word sounded odd on his tongue, and there was confusion in his voice. "What is parley?" Orgrim was one of the largest orcs in the clan, but he could move with great silence when he so chose. Durotan, intent on the conversation, had never even noticed his friend step beside him. "Parley means," Durotan fumbled for the words. To an orc they were so strange. The stranger comes only to speak. He comes in peace. What? Orgrim looked almost comical, his tusked jaw hanging open slightly. This must be some kind of trick. Orcs do not parley. Durotan didn't reply. He watched as Gia stepped beside her mate, speaking to him quietly. Like Drekthar, Gia was a shaman, but she had a very specific task. She was the lore keeper, one who tended the scrolls that had been passed down for generations and ensured the ancient traditions and rituals of the Frostwolves were not lost. If anyone understood how to properly respond to an orc coming under the banner of parley, it would be her. Garad turned to face the silent orcs, patiently awaiting his response. An orc named Gul'dan has come to speak, he told them. He invokes the ancient ritual of parley, which means he is our guest. We will treat him with respect and honor. If he is hungry, we will feed him the choicest food. If he is cold, he may have our warmest cloak. I will listen to what he has come to say and behave in all ways in accordance with our traditions. What if he does not respond in kind? Asked one orc. What if he shows the Frostwolf clan disrespect? Another shouted. Garad looked to Gia, who answered the questions. Then it is a shame upon his head. The spirits will not favor him for scorning the very tradition he invokes. The dishonor is his, not ours. We are Frostwolves, she stated, her voice rising with her conviction. Shouts of agreement went up in response. Kurgnal still looked uncomfortable. He tugged at his beard and murmured something to his chieftain. Durotan and Orgrim were close enough to catch the softly spoken words. My chieftain, Kurgnal said. There is more. Speak, Garad ordered. Is Gul'dan. He comes with a slave. Durotan stiffened with instant dislike. Some of the clans enslaved others, he knew. Orcs fought amongst themselves on occasion. He himself had been part of these battles, when other clans trespassed on Frostfire Ridge and hunted Frostwolf food. The Frostwolves fought well and fully, not hesitating to kill if necessary, but never doing so out of rage or merely because an opportunity presented itself. They did not take prisoners, let alone slaves. The fight was over when one side yielded. Beside him, Orgrim snarled softly at the words as well. But Kurgnal was not done. And he shook his head as if he couldn't believe what he was about to say, then tried again. My lord chieftain, both the slave and her master are green. Bum, bum, bum. A foreshadowing of what is to come. And we know why they are green. And this is a little different than some of the novels. Again, this is why this is not quite canon. In the actual real lore, the greenness of the corruption of some of these orcs, I don't believe starts to happen until warlocks have infiltrated all of the various clans. So that was a short chapter today, maybe even shorter than the prologue, but that was our chapter 1, another story of the hunt. But already we're starting to get into what's going to happen. I don't know exactly I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched Warcraft, the movie. So I don't remember exactly where that kicks off. But this is setting the stage already, I guess, for why some orcs are green, who Gul'dan is, etc. And mostly, above all else, the spirit of what the Frostwolf clan is, and it is awesome. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching and listening to today's episode. If you like what you saw, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all those good things. Tomorrow, as I do every week, I'll be dropping an episode on the Patreon, so check me out there if you want to see this same treatment on all of the things in the Assassin's Creed universe. Thank you so much. This episode, In the Pipe, 5x5.